The alarm screamed through the cargo vessel Meridian Dawn, and Jake Morrison grabbed the nearest support rail as the ship lurched violently to one side. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors, and somewhere behind him, he heard the sound of metal tearing apart. This was bad. Really bad. Jake had been traveling with the crew for 3 weeks now, heading toward the mining colonies in the outer sectors. He was supposed to be giving a presentation on human survival techniques to some curious alien researchers. Now it looked like he might have to demonstrate those techniques whether he wanted to or not. "All crew to emergency pods!" Captain Vellner's voice crackled over the speakers. The Thaxian captain sounded scared, which made sense. Thaxians came from a world with gentle weather and no predators. They were explorers and traders, not fighters or survivors. Jake ran toward the bridge, his boots magnetic and keeping him attached to the floor as the ship spun. He found Velnor gripping his command chair. His blue skin turned almost white with fear. Pilot Kiri, a small Venery with delicate features and large eyes, was frantically working the controls. Engineer Zophar, a thick-bodied Gordek, was rerouting power from his station. "The engine core is gone," Zothar said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We are falling toward the planet below." Jake looked at the main screen. A brown and gray world filled the view, growing larger by the second. "What planet is that, Kragath?" 7, Velnar whispered.
"It is classified as uninhabitable. Extreme temperatures, violent storms, toxic plants, dangerous predators."
"The Galactic Council forbids landing there." "Well, we don't have much choice now," Jake said, strapping himself into a spare seat. "Brace for impact." The next few minutes were a nightmare of spinning, crashing, and screaming metal. Jake felt the ship hit atmosphere, felt the hull heating up, felt the terrible shudder as they slammed into the ground. Then everything went black. When Jake woke up, his head was pounding. He unbuckled himself and checked for injuries. A few bruises, one cut on his arm, but nothing serious. He was lucky. He looked around the bridge. The others were alive, but hurt. Kiri was bleeding from a wound on her shoulder. Zothar had a badly twisted leg. Velnor seemed mostly unharmed, but was in shock, staring at nothing. Jake helped each of them in turn, using the emergency medical kit to treat their wounds as best he could. Kiri whimpered as he bandaged her shoulder. Her species was fragile, built for a world with light gravity and no dangers. "We need to send a distress signal," Velnor finally said, his voice shaking. "How long until rescue arrives?" Zothar checked his damaged console. "The signal is broadcasting, but we are very far from normal shipping routes. 2 weeks, maybe 3, before anyone reaches us." "3 weeks?" Kiri's voice was high with panic. "We will die here. This planet will kill us." Jake walked to the cracked viewport and looked outside. The landscape was harsh, covered in sharp rocks and strange twisted plants. The sky was a dark orange color, and the wind was howling loud enough to hear through the damaged hull. In the distance he could see mountains and what looked like storm clouds gathering. "We will not die," Jake said calmly. "We just need to survive until rescue comes." "Survive?" Velnor stood up, his legs unsteady. "Human Jake, you do not understand." "Kragath. 7 has temperature swings of over 60 degrees between day and night. The air has toxins. The creatures here can tear through metal." "We are doomed." Jake turned and looked at the 3 aliens. They were terrified, defeated before they even tried. He had seen this before, back on Earth, when he taught city people who had never spent a night outdoors. Fear could kill faster than any predator. "Listen to me," Jake said. "I know you are scared. But humans come from a death world, too. We call it Earth. We have deserts that can cook you during the day and freeze you at night. We have jungles with poisonous everything. We have predators that hunt in packs, and we survived all of it before we even had technology. But we are not humans, Curie said softly. We are not Deathworlders. No, but I am, Jake said. And I am going to keep us all alive. First thing we need is shelter. This ship is too exposed and too damaged. We need something better. Better than a ship? Zothar looked confused. What could be better? A proper shelter, built for this environment. Something insulated, protected, and stable. Jake started gathering tools from the emergency lockers. He found a plasma cutter, some cable, a tarp, and various other supplies. Velnor watched him with wide eyes. You want to go out there? I have to. We all do, eventually. The ship's hull is breached in multiple places. When night comes and the temperature drops, we will freeze. When day comes and it heats up, we will cook. We need shelter now. Jake opened the airlock door. The wind immediately rushed in, hot and carrying strange smells. He heard a distant roar, something big and probably hungry. The three aliens moved back in fear. Stay here and rest, Jake said. Let your injuries heal a little.
I am going to survey the area and start gathering materials. I will be back soon.
Jake, wait, Velnar said. You should not go alone. Jake smiled. Captain, where I come from, humans used to survive alone in worse places than this, with nothing but rocks and sticks. I will be fine. Trust me. He stepped out into the alien world, leaving three very shocked aliens behind, and began the work of survival. Jake walked around the crash site slowly, his eyes taking in everything. The wind pushed against him, hot and dry like a desert breeze. He had been in deserts before, back on Earth. This was not so different. The key to survival was always the same: stay calm, observe, and adapt. The Meridian Dawn had crashed into a rocky valley surrounded by cliffs on two sides. That was actually good. The cliffs would block some of the wind and provide natural protection. Jake noticed a spot about 200 meters away where the cliff face had an overhang, creating a shallow cave. Perfect. He started gathering materials. First, he needed tools. Using the plasma cutter carefully, he sliced sections of metal from the ship's outer panels. He shaped them into flat blades and attached handles made from broken support beams. Now he had cutting tools and digging implements. Next came cordage. Jake examined the strange plants growing between the rocks. Some had thick, fibrous stalks. He cut several and began processing them, stripping away the outer layers to reveal tough fibers inside. He twisted these fibers together, creating rope. It was not as good as manufactured rope, but it would hold. Inside the ship, the three aliens watched through the cracked viewport. What is he doing? Kiri asked, her large eyes following Jake's movements. I believe he is making rope, Zothar said, his analytical mind trying to understand. From plants, without any machinery. Impossible, Velnor muttered. Those plants could be poisonous. He is being careful, Zothar observed. See how he tests each plant first? He rubs it on his skin and waits. He is checking for reactions. Jake returned to the ship an hour later, carrying bundles of materials. His face was sweaty but calm. I found a good location for shelter. We need to move there before nightfall. Move? Velnor stood up. We should stay with the ship. Rescue will look for the ship. They will find the ship easily from orbit, Jake explained patiently. But we cannot survive inside it. Look at these holes in the hull. When the temperature drops tonight, the cold will pour in. When the sun rises tomorrow, this metal box will become an oven. We need proper insulation and climate control. Climate control without technology? Kiri looked doubtful. Humans controlled climate for thousands of years before technology, Jake said. Come on! Help me gather supplies! Take only what we need: medical kits, food rations, water containers, and tools. Kiri could barely walk with her injured shoulder. Zothar limped badly on his twisted leg. Velnor had to help support both of them. Jake carried most of the supplies, making multiple trips between the ship and the cliff shelter. When they finally reached the overhang, the three aliens collapsed, exhausted. Jake immediately began working. He used his makeshift tools to clear the ground, removing sharp rocks and toxic-looking plants. Then he started building a frame. He drove support poles into the ground, using rocks as hammers. He lashed them together with his plant fiber rope. Across the top, he stretched the salvaged metal panels, creating a roof that extended beyond the natural overhang. The aliens watched in fascination as walls began to take shape. He is building a structure, Zothar said with wonder. With his hands. Jake worked steadily as the sun moved across the strange orange sky. He layered the walls carefully. First, a frame of metal and wood. Then insulation made from dried plant material he had gathered. Then an outer layer of tightly woven plant stalks for wind protection. Finally, an inner layer of salvaged ship fabric for comfort.
Why so many layers? Velnor asked, genuinely curious now.
Insulation, Jake explained, not stopping his work. Each layer traps air. Air is a natural insulator. It will keep heat in during the cold night and keep heat out during the hot day. The outer layer blocks wind and rain. The inner layer prevents moisture from our breathing from making everything damp. The sun was getting lower. Jake could feel the temperature starting to drop. He worked faster, sealing gaps, reinforcing weak points, creating a doorway with a flap that could close tightly. As darkness fell, the temperature plummeted. The aliens began shivering immediately. Jake ushered them inside the completed shelter. It was small, only large enough for all four of them to lie down. But it was solid and surprisingly warm. "How is it warm in here?" Kiri asked, amazed. Her breath was not fogging anymore.
Our body heat is trapped by the insulation, Jake explained. 4 bodies generate a lot of warmth.
The shelter keeps it from escaping. We are basically heating this space just by being here. Outside, the wind howled louder. Through gaps in the doorway, they could see the crashed ship in the distance. Ice was already forming on its metal hull. "If we had stayed there," Velnor said quietly, "we would have frozen." "Yes," Jake said simply. "That is why humans learned to build shelters thousands of years ago. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Hot, cold, wet, dry, everything extreme. We had to adapt or die." Zothar touched the wall of the shelter with something like reverence. "This is incredible engineering." No power source, no advanced materials. Just basic resources and knowledge. "Survival is not about having the best technology," Jake said. "It is about understanding your environment and using what is available. Tomorrow we will improve this shelter even more. We will add ventilation for when the day gets hot. We will create a rainwater collection system. We will make it comfortable." "Comfortable?" Kiri laughed weakly.
"On a planet that wants to kill us? Every planet wants to kill you if you do not respect it," Jake said. "Earth taught humans that lesson over and over."
But we learned. We survived. We thrived. And now I will teach you. As the night grew colder outside, the 4 of them huddled in the shelter Jake had built. The aliens were still scared, still injured, still far from home. But for the first time since the crash, they felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they would survive this. The second morning, on Kragath, 7 arrived with brutal heat. Jake woke before the others and stepped outside the shelter. The temperature was already climbing fast. He could see heat waves shimmering over the rocks. Today would be a challenge, but he had faced worse on Earth. Water was the next priority. A human could survive weeks without food, but only days without water. Jake knew the aliens would need water even sooner than he would. He scanned the landscape, looking for signs. Plants grew thicker in one direction, down toward a lower area. Where plants thrived, water usually existed. "Where are you going?" Velnor asked, emerging from the shelter. The captain looked tired, but less frightened than yesterday. "To find water," Jake said. "We have maybe 2 days of water left in our containers."
We need a reliable source. I will come with you,
Velnor said. "You should not go alone." Jake nodded. Having company was good. If something happened to him, the others would be helpless. Stay close and watch where you step. They walked down the slope, following the thicker vegetation. After 20 minutes, Jake heard it, the sound of running water. They found a stream flowing between rocks, clear and fast-moving. Jake knelt beside it and examined it carefully. "We found water," Velnor said with relief. "We are saved." "Not yet," Jake said. "We cannot drink this without treating it first. See how clear it looks?" That means nothing. There could be bacteria, parasites, or toxic minerals dissolved in it that we cannot see. "How do we make it safe?" Velnor asked. "Boiling is best. Heat kills most dangerous organisms. But we also need to filter out any particles first." Jake started gathering materials. He found hollow plant stems and packed them with layers of sand, small stones, and plant fibers. This is a basic filter. Water goes in the top, passes through the layers, and comes out cleaner at the bottom. They carried water back to camp in their containers. Kiri and Zothar were awake, looking worried. "You were gone a long time," Kiri said. "We found water," Jake said. "Now we need to purify it. And to do that, we need fire." "Fire?" All 3 aliens looked shocked. "You can make fire without technology?" Zothar asked. "Humans have been making fire for hundreds of thousands of years," Jake said. He gathered dry plant material and arranged it in a small pit he dug near the shelter. Then he found 2 pieces of wood. One had a small notch carved into it. The other was a straight stick. Jake placed the notched wood on the ground and began spinning the stick rapidly between his palms, pressing down into the notch. It was hard work. Sweat poured down his face in the growing heat. His hands began to hurt, but he kept going, faster and faster. The aliens watched in amazement. Smoke began to rise from where the stick met the notch. Then a tiny ember glowed red. Jake carefully transferred the ember to his bundle of dry plant material and blew on it gently. The material began to smoke, then suddenly burst into flame. "Incredible," Zothar whispered. "You created fire from nothing but wood and friction." Jake fed the fire carefully, adding larger pieces of wood. Soon he had a good blaze going. He placed rocks around the fire and balanced a metal container of water on top. "The rocks will hold heat for a long time. We can use them to boil water even after the fire dies down." While the water boiled, Jake showed them his filter system. The aliens were fascinated as water passed through the layers and emerged cleaner. "It is still not perfect," Jake explained. "That is why we boil it. Boiling for at least 5 minutes kills almost everything dangerous." They drank the purified water slowly. It tasted slightly of minerals and smoke, but it was safe. Kiri closed her eyes in relief. "I did not realize how thirsty I was." "Now we need food," Jake said. Our rations will not last 3 weeks.
We need to supplement them with local food, but everything here might be poisonous, Velnor protested.
Not everything. I have been observing the wildlife. There are small creatures that eat certain plants. If they can eat them, we might be able to as well. But I will test everything carefully first. Jake spent the afternoon setting traps. He used his rope and pieces of metal to create snares near animal trails he had spotted. He also gathered various plants, taking only small samples. Back at camp, he began the careful process of testing them.
This is how humans test unknown plants, Jake explained.
He rubbed a small piece of plant on his inner arm. First, test for skin reaction.
Wait 15 minutes. If no rash or burning, move to the next test.
He touched the plant to his lips. Wait 15 minutes. Then touch to tongue. Wait again. If no bad reactions, swallow a tiny amount and wait several hours. Only after all these tests do we know if something is safe.
That takes a very long time, Zothar observed. Yes, but it keeps you alive.
Humans learned these methods through thousands of years of trial and error. Many people died so we could learn what is safe and what is not. By evening, Jake checked his traps and found success. 3 small creatures, similar to rabbits but with 6 legs and scales, were caught. He brought them back to camp. Kiri looked away as he prepared them for cooking, but hunger was stronger than squeamishness. Jake roasted the meat over the fire, seasoning it with a plant he had tested that smelled like earth herbs. The smell was amazing. When the meat was cooked, he divided it carefully among them. The aliens hesitated at first, then ate. Their expressions changed to surprise.
"This is delicious,"
Velnor said.
I did not expect that.
Humans have been cooking our food for a very long time, Jake said. Cooking makes food safer and easier to digest.
It also makes it taste better.
As the sun set and the temperature began dropping again, they gathered around the fire. Jake had collected enough wood to keep it burning through the night. The fire provided warmth, light, and comfort. The aliens sat closer to it than necessary, mesmerized by the dancing flames.
My people lost the knowledge of making fire, Zothar said, quietly. We have machines that create heat and light, but we forgot how to make it ourselves. Watching you do this makes me realize how much we have lost.
Technology is good, Jake said, but the basic skills should never be forgotten. You never know when you might need them.
The 4th day on Kragath.
7 started with a problem. Jake woke to a sound he recognized immediately from his years of wilderness training. Something was circling their camp, something big. He moved quietly to the shelter entrance and looked out. The sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the rocky ground. About 50 meters away, he saw them. 6 creatures, each the size of a large wolf, but built differently. They had 6 legs like most animals on this planet, powerful jaws, and eyes that reflected the morning light. They were hunting as a pack. Jake turned back to the others. Velnor was awake, his eyes wide with terror.
Predators,
the captain whispered. I heard them moving in the darkness.
Wake the others quietly, Jake said. No sudden movements. Kiri and Zothar woke quickly, their survival instincts sharp despite their peaceful backgrounds.
All 3 aliens looked at Jake with fear and hope mixed together. They were depending on him completely now.
What do we do?
Kiri asked, her voice barely audible. Jake was already moving, gathering materials he had prepared over the past few days.
We defend our territory. I knew this would happen eventually.
Predators always investigate new arrivals. He had noticed the creature's tracks 2 days ago and had been preparing. Now he showed the aliens what he had made. Sharpened stakes cut from strong wood and hardened in the fire. Noisemakers created from pieces of metal hanging from strings. A supply of rocks for throwing. And most importantly, torches soaked in plant oil that would burn bright
and hot. "Help me set up the perimeter," Jake said. He moved outside, staying low and calm. The predators watched, but did not approach yet. They were being cautious, trying to understand what these strange beings were. Jake drove the stakes into the ground in a wide circle around the shelter, points facing outward. The aliens helped, following his instructions exactly. Zothar, despite his injured leg, worked hard. Velnor positioned the noisemakers where Jake indicated. Kiri prepared the torches with her good arm.
"Why are we doing all this?" Velnor asked. "Should we not just hide in the shelter?" "They would tear through the walls eventually," Jake explained.
"Better to show strength now. Predators usually avoid prey that looks dangerous or difficult to take down." The lead predator, larger than the others, took a step closer. It made a low sound, somewhere between a growl and a clicking noise. The pack began to spread out, trying to encircle the camp.
"Light the torches," Jake said calmly.
Fire bloomed in the morning dimness. Jake held a torch in each hand and walked toward the nearest predator. The creature stopped, uncertain. Fire was not natural here at this time of day. It was unpredictable and dangerous. Jake began making noise. He shouted, banged metal pieces together, and waved the torches. The aliens joined in, creating a wall of sound and movement. The predators backed away slightly, confused by this aggressive display. One of the younger predators, perhaps too hungry or too bold, rushed forward. It dodged past the stakes and came straight at the shelter. Jake was ready. He threw one torch directly at the creature. It landed in front of the predator, spraying sparks and flame. The creature yelped and retreated quickly. "Pick up rocks," Jake called to the others. "Throw them if any get too close. Aim for the head or legs." For several tense minutes, the standoff continued. The predators circled, looking for weakness. Jake kept moving, keeping the torches high, maintaining the noise. He grabbed handfuls of dirt and threw them, keeping the creatures unsettled and confused. Finally, the lead predator made a decision. It barked a command to the others. The pack retreated slowly, keeping their eyes on the camp, but moving away. They disappeared into the rocks, heading toward easier prey. Jake waited a full 10 minutes before lowering the torches. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. The aliens collapsed with relief.
"You saved us," Kiri said, her voice shaking. "They would have killed us all."
"Maybe," Jake said.
Or maybe they would have just tested our defenses and left. Predators are not mindless killing machines.
"They are smart. They calculate risk versus reward."
We made ourselves too risky. Velnor looked at the defensive perimeter with new respect. "You knew they would come. You prepared for this days ago. I saw their tracks. I saw signs they were watching us. On Earth, when you enter an animal's territory, they always come to investigate. It is natural." Jake began improving the defenses, adding more stakes, creating better barriers. Over the next few hours, the aliens helped enthusiastically. They were no longer passive survivors waiting for rescue. They were active participants in their own survival. Zothar used his engineering mind to design better noisemaker systems. Velnor organized a watch schedule so someone would always be alert. Kiri gathered more materials for torches. "I never thought I would be building weapons and defenses with my own hands," Velnor said as he sharpened a wooden stake. "My people have not done such things for thousands of years." "Your people were lucky," Jake said. "They evolved on a safe world. Humans did not have that luxury. Every day was a fight to survive. Every night brought new dangers. We had to learn or die." "But you do not just fight," Zothar observed. "You did not kill those creatures."
"You could have. You had weapons."
"But you chose to scare them away instead." Jake nodded. "Killing should be the last option, not the first. Those creatures are just trying to survive, like us. They have families, territories, and lives. We are the invaders here, not them. If I can solve a problem without killing, I will. That afternoon, they worked on improving the shelter itself. Jake showed them how to create a ventilation system using hollow plant stems positioned to catch the wind. When the day grew hot, air flowed through the shelter naturally, keeping it cooler inside. He also built a rainwater collection system using the tarp and some containers.
You think of everything, Kiri said with admiration.
I think of what is necessary, Jake corrected gently. Shelter, water, food, and defense. Those are the basics. Everything else comes after. As evening approached, they sat around their fire again. The defensive perimeter stood strong around them. Water purified and ready to drink. Food cooking over the flames. A watch schedule established. They were not just surviving anymore. They were thriving. On the 12th day, Jake was checking the water filters when he heard it. A sound different from anything on Kragath. 7, the high-pitched whine of engines. He looked up and saw a ship descending through the orange sky. The rescue had finally arrived.
They are here, Kiri shouted, jumping up and down despite her healing shoulder. We are saved! The Galactic Council rescue ship landed near the crashed Meridian Dawn. It was sleek and white, marked with official symbols. A ramp extended and a squad of rescue personnel emerged, led by a tall Elori named Commander Silvek. He wore formal rescue gear and carried advanced scanning equipment. Commander Silvek expected to find survivors in desperate condition. The standard protocol for Kragath, 7, was immediate medical evacuation. Most species lasted only a few days on this deadly world before succumbing to exposure, starvation, or predator attacks. He had seen the casualty reports from previous crashes here. They were never good. What he found instead made him stop in his tracks. The camp was thriving. A sophisticated shelter stood against the cliff face with multiple layers of insulation visible in its construction. A fire burned in a carefully designed pit, surrounded by heat-retaining rocks. Racks of drying meat hung in the shade. Water containers were arranged in a collection system that caught morning dew and rain. Defensive stakes formed a perimeter around the entire area. Everything was organized, functional, and ingenious. 4 figures emerged from the shelter. Captain Velnor, Pilot Kiri, Engineer Zothar, and a human. All 4 looked healthy. Not just alive, but actually healthy. Their injuries were healing well. They had gained weight, not lost it. They moved with confidence, not the desperate weakness of typical crash survivors. "Commander Silvek," Velnor said, greeting him with a smile. "Welcome to our camp. Please, come in. We just prepared fresh food." Commander Silvek stared. "Captain Velnor?" Well, you are offering me food? On Kragath? 7? Yes. Jake caught some excellent game this morning. The meat is quite delicious when properly prepared. The rescue team followed them into the camp, looking around with obvious confusion. One of the medics scanned Kiri with her equipment. Her injuries are healing perfectly. Better than they would have in a medical bay. "How is this possible?" Jake treated us, Kiri explained. "He cleaned our wounds, made bandages, even created medicine from local plants. He knows so much about healing." Commander Silvek approached Jake, studying him carefully. "You are the human. You did all this?" "We all did it together," Jake said. "I just showed them how." "They learned quickly. Show me around," the commander said. It was not a request. Jake gave him a tour of the camp. He explained the shelter construction, how the layers provided insulation against both heat and cold. He demonstrated the water purification system, showing both the filter and the boiling process. He showed the food preservation techniques, the trap designs, the defensive perimeter, and the fire management system. Commander Silvek examined everything closely,
His rescue team followed, taking notes and recordings. The commander picked up one of the wooden stakes, testing its strength and sharpness. He studied the rope made from plant fibers. He looked at the carefully organized supplies and the efficient layout of the camp.
"This is remarkable," the commander finally said. "My teams use advanced equipment to set up emergency shelters on hostile worlds. It takes us hours with powered tools and prefabricated materials. You did this with your hands and basic tools?" "Humans have been doing this for a very long time," Jake said. "We built civilizations before we had any technology at all."
"These are just the basics!" Zothar stepped forward eagerly. "Commander, you must understand what we learned here."
Jake taught us how to test plants for safety, how to track animals, how to predict weather patterns by observing the sky and wind. He showed us that survival is not about having the best equipment. It is about knowledge, observation, and adaptation. "The first night, I thought we would die," Velnor added. "We were injured, scared and helpless, but Jake never panicked. He assessed the situation and took action. He built this shelter in hours, using materials he gathered from the environment. When predators came, he defended us without killing a single creature. He is incredible." "We want to learn more," Kiri said. "Please, Commander, can Jake teach others? So many species in the galaxy have forgotten these skills. We depend completely on technology."
"If our ships fail, if our equipment breaks, we have no backup knowledge." Commander Silvek looked at Jake with new respect.
The Galactic Council has survival training programs, but they focus on using emergency equipment. What you have demonstrated here is something different.
"Something we have lost?" "Not lost," Jake said.
"Just forgotten. Any species can learn these skills."
It takes practice and patience, but anyone can do it. The commander made a decision.
"Human Jake Morrison, I am offering you a position at the Galactic Academy. We need someone to teach practical survival skills to our personnel.
No equipment, no technology, just pure knowledge and technique. Will you accept?" Jake thought about it. He could help so many people learn to survive. He could share the knowledge humans had gathered over millennia.
"Yes," he said, "I will accept.
But on one condition."
"What condition?" "Velnor, Kiri, and Zothar come with me as teaching assistants. They learn these skills from nothing in just 12 days.
They can help show other species that anyone can learn to survive." The three aliens looked shocked and honored. Commander Silvek smiled. Agreed.
You will all come to the academy. The rescue team helped them pack up the camp carefully.
They documented everything for training purposes. The shelter, the tools, the systems Jake had created. All of it would be studied and taught to others. As they boarded the rescue ship, Kiri looked back at the harsh landscape of Kragath. 7. I hated this planet when we crashed. Now I am grateful for it. It taught me I am stronger than I thought.
"That is the real lesson," Jake said. "Survival is not just about skills and knowledge. It is about discovering your own strength and never giving up." Weeks later, at the Galactic Academy, Jake stood before his first class.
50 students from 20 different species watched him nervously. Behind him, Velnor, Kyrie, and Zothar stood proudly, ready to assist.
"Welcome to Survival Basics," Jake began. "Today we are going to learn how to build a shelter using only natural materials.
By the end of this course, you will know how to survive anywhere with nothing but your knowledge and determination. Let me tell you about a planet called Earth, where my species learned these skills the hard way." The students leaned forward, eager to learn. And Jake smiled, knowing that he was helping to spread knowledge that could save countless lives across the galaxy. The Deathworlder from Earth had found his true purpose, teaching others that survival was not about technology or strength, but about adaptability, intelligence, and the will to keep going,
no matter what challenges appeared.